Patch 5.35 is coming in a few short days, and this means that there's going to be a whole slew of new features added to the game. And likewise, we in the Final Fantasy community are being given some of this information through what is termed as a special site or a particular web page dedicated to a particular patch. So this has been the way for patch 5.1, 5.2, and so on and so forth. But I want to draw attention to something that I know is probably me chasing ghosts or wishing that it would happen, and it's probably not. So curb your expectations off the bat, but it caught my eye. So scrolling through the website, I went to the very bottom of the page, and then I saw this human character that is actually in front of this big beast. And this is a beast that might be in the game, but if it is, I have completely no recollection of it right now. And so this immediately excites me because I'm like, oh wow, is this a Beastmaster maybe? And there's no secret that Beastmaster has been hinted in the lore. If you remember Ranjit from the Shadowbringers story, spoilers, he was essentially a Beastmaster where he would be able to do certain abilities and combos with his pet dragon. And so I've always found that concept really cool. And likewise, there have been little blurbs about it in the lore, such as if you talk to some of the NPCs in Gangos, which is the Bojin Southern Front map with all the Rothgar on it, you can have them just muttering a little bit in text about this particular Beastmaster character. And so, in all likelihood, this is just that character, and he's just really important to the story. But taking it a few notches, I want to just play around with the idea of it being a Beastmaster. So there's no secret around everything that essentially there has been a huge demand for Beastmaster to be entered into the game for a very long time. Even if we look back at prior Final Fantasy games, there always has been a recurring theme showing up through some of them where you'd have a Beastmaster character or someone who essentially would really be involved on a particular pet. Most notably, probably for MMO players, is Final Fantasy XI had a Beastmaster character, as well as World of Warcraft, which is the footage playing in the background, is also featuring a Beastmaster in it. And so this basically would be a class that would be a lot more focused in on the pets, such as for the Summoner. I think that the Summoner has come a long way where it is more interactive with the pets and where it goes from the Ifrit Edgies or Garuda Edgies if you're in dungeons, or Titan Edgy. Honestly, almost never. Now I'm canceling out what I said in my video. Is Titan Edgy good? Yeah, in certain situations, like when your healer isn't really paying attention, or if you know there's a really strong burst or mechanic, but that is very fringe. But the main thing is that you're rotating between these, and then you're rotating into something like Bahamut or Phoenix. You aren't really getting that same level of interplay between you and like a really dedicated beast that you are like channeling everything into. And that's something that I think has been sorely lacking, if I'm being super honest, from Final Fantasy XIV for a very long time. In fact, from its inception. But essentially, this is something that even Summoner players were giving critiques when A Realm Reborn first hit, where Summoner basically kind of felt more like Warlock from World of Warcraft rather than Summoner, where Summoner from Final Fantasy XI was like basically their entire toolkit was basically put into making this summon as strong as could be. And that is generalizing it a bit. Like, you would sub-spec and you could take in like healing abilities, or you could take in other abilities, but for the most part the summon was just the main thing, whereas Summoner up until recently was all about like dot management and then doing their I don't want to call it Malefic Rapture. I've been looking into too much World of Warcraft, and for the record, that's going to be a really fun series coming up. I've been working maybe a little bit too much on it, but that's going to be a fun series. Don't call it Malefic Rapture. Fester. Heavens, I've said Fester so many times over the years you'd think I'd remember it. But basically, it felt more like a Warlock rather than the Summon, where the Summon basically was like just an attached on damage over time effect with the pretty graphic, essentially, for all intents and purposes. I mean, is that oversimplifying it? Yes, but at the same point in time, your only real interaction with the pet was casting in Kindle. And on the other hand, as a Scholar main for years, I know pet macros, so there was some interplay. I'm oversimplifying, or now I'm going too into detail. But basically, we haven't really had this pet interaction, and I think that this would be really cool. Now, to curb expectations even further, which I said from the onset of this video, curb expectations because I genuinely do not believe we're getting a Beastmaster in any form. I would rather be pleasantly surprised than disappointed if it doesn't happen. But we remember that the Blue Mage was launched at, sorry, I actually had to look up the date. It was along patch 4.5, and so that was released in a part of January 15th in 2019. So that was not an initial thing. That was actually really at the tail end, actually, of Stormblood. It very, very, very late on. And so, do I think there's a possibility that a limited job could potentially be released? Yes, and I think that anyone that just says flat out no is probably tricking themselves, because Blue Mage kind of came out of the blue. But alongside that came a whole lot of controversy. I mean, even I have made a video on the Blue Mage and why it just did not really meet everyone's expectations or hopes, and I think that that's a part of the limited job system, which, for those who aren't aware or those who haven't looked into the Blue Mage at all, it is capped off at level 60, and our current level cap is level 80, and so this means that for all intents and purposes you can't take it to farm relevant materials. You can't take it into current raids, you can't take it into current dungeons, you can't farm tomestones with it, like current gear tomestones. You can't really take it into open world hunts because you're just going to get one shot and your damage is never going to really compare to a level 80. For all intents and purposes, it was a fun side activity, and so I think that possibly the Beastmaster could be released as almost a limited job, as a fun activity on the side. But again, I think that the entire premise is that we so far to date haven't had any inkling or heads up that a Beastmaster might be coming. And so when I say all this, it's with a huge caveat, because it's just like, did we know that the dwarves were going to be the beast tribe? Yeah, we knew about it months in advance. Did we know that the Bojin Southern Front was coming? Yeah, we knew about that way in advance. Like this coming patch 5.35 that's finally letting us actually do something with it. We've known about it for a very long time. In fact, we've known the details, and I've even done a video on the details of it months ago. So I'd say that I want to entertain the idea and talk about what if Beastmaster was added, because honestly, it's a class type that I find absolutely awesome. I'm sorry, I am a dog lover in real life. I have not shown my pets, but I love my pets, and so it's just like, if they added a Beastmaster, oh, I'd be in heaven. I'd want to play it so badly. So yeah, I just kind of want to talk about it in that regard. But again, do I think that they are adding it at all? Okay, let's break it down. Do I think they're adding it as a full job? No. They said back when they released the Ninja back in A Realm Reborn, when it was not at the start of the expansion, that they were never going to do it again, or something to that effect. They said something like it just was a lot of stress on the team, it just was a lot of development effort, and that it was not something that they were going to look at doing further again in the future, and that any new jobs likewise since then have been with the launch of a new expansion, such as when we got Heavensward, we got Astrologian, we got Dark Knight and Machinist, and then when we got Stormblood, we got Red Mage and Samurai, and now with Shadowbringers, we got the Dancer and the Gunbreaker. So I do not think that it will be a full job, period. But would it be a limited job? I'd say that's probably our best shot, especially because if you think about a Beastmaster, it has mechanics that honestly are probably non-traditional in the biggest sense. But again, could Blue Mage have been made to work? Yes. I really do believe I'm not saying it'd be easy. Oh no, I'm not saying it would be easy, but it could be done where the mechanics could have been made, or maybe you just changed some of the class fantasy and you made it more rigid, or place requirements as in order to spec into a healer role in a dungeon, you need this, and this ability, period. Or in order to spec into a dungeon as a tank, you need abilities 1, 2, 3, 16, 27. Like, you could definitely set up a system that would be very forced requirements and then build off there. But we didn't see that, and likewise with Beastmaster, I am thinking that if we saw it, I think that it would be a limited job. But in terms of limited job, would that appear? I also don't think that's possible because, as I said earlier, any content that we've had, like before the Blue Mage was announced, we knew that it was coming for a little while before that. And then it finally dropped, and we're like, oh, okay, now we finally get a hold of this. And so, do I think that we're going to be absolutely shocked that in patch 5.35 that there's going to be a Beastmaster class? I wish. I really wish I would, because that would be awesome. That's the only way I could say it, is like, I wish, because it'd be awesome. But the realist in me is just like, if it was gonna happen, they'd probably announce it for patch 5.4 or patch 5.5, which would be a really good idea, because if you think about patch 5.4, that is the primary rating tier, and then that's gonna be probably, if we're following previous expansions, gonna be the last raid tier for the Shadowbringers expansion as a whole. And so reality is that, yeah, pretty much patch 5.4, patch 5.5 would be the ideal time to actually be releasing it in the first place. Anyhow, that is all my thoughts on this. All I can say is that I saw this picture and it was exciting enough to make me put down my coding editor, stop me from coding, and just chat about it, because I saw this picture and I'm like, oh, please happen, please happen. I'm curbing my expectations, that's pretty clear, but anyhow, I needed to talk about it, and I really hope that like more people talk about it, because I think it'd be so cool. Anyhow, that is all for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and lots of content coming. I'm pushing as hard as I can for a full website launch, so stay tuned. Finally, I'm gonna be finally not done, but in a release-worthy state soon, and with the way that I've set things up, it's going to make videos like the Ultimate Guides coming up really smooth. Anyhow, hope to catch you on the next one, and let me know in the comments what you think about the Beastmaster, because personally, I really hope it happens. I really hope it happens. Anyhow, hope to catch you next time.